Dear friends, welcome to this class on pointers in C language. I'm going to go slow and I'm going to go deep into it. Before I can get started, I have created a new Telegram channel. Many of you have been asking me a lot of technical queries in different platforms in the YouTube itself, sometimes on the email, sometimes on different chats. So I wanted to make a separate channel which is primarily for all of my videos. So you can subscribe to Sanfoundry classes on Telegram. So you can ask me doubts of any of the videos there. And I'm also going to announce the schedule of lot of classes on different topics, including not only technical, but also about personality and career. So you can definitely plan to, join this channel. So let's get started on the agenda now. We are going to cover pointer. Okay, so we'll talk about what is a pointer and why you really require a pointer. This is very important question because people want to learn pointer, but they need to know where we use them. Okay. After that, we will talk about pointers in C programming language. Okay, so this is the important thing. And as you have seen in bunch of my videos, we generally talk about memory representations, and pointer is all about memory. Understanding the memory, manipulating the memory, address of a variable or variables in a memory, right? So we'll talk about pointer representation in memory as well as double pointer representation in memory. Along the presentation, I am going to give a good amount of demo. Okay, so we'll have a code also which will allow us to understand some of these internal details about pointer. We'll talk about arithmetic on a pointer. So we'll talk about how to do subtraction, scaling, right? So we'll have scaling and subtraction on pointers. We'll also cover in multiple videos. Okay, we'll talk about declaration of a pointer, initialization, and a lot of tricky problems along with the demo. Once we cover some of these in some of the videos, we'll talk about advanced topics on pointers. Okay, so pointers and arrays, how they are different, and then pointer to an array itself, and then array of pointers and strings. So this is also a very interesting area, right? A lot of people work on these. And then the whole new concept about pointers to a function or function pointer. A lot of complicated pointer declarations are there, right? So we'll cover all of them. So as I told you, the focus here is to understand bare bone right from start. Jump into the details because many people I have seen, they learn the language, but whenever the topic of pointer comes, they will have a lot of issues in understanding it. So I made it a slightly slow, grounds up approach to understand fundamentally how do we really look at pointer. Okay, so the first question is, what is a pointer, right? That's what it is. What is a pointer? And then what it points to. So a lot of people generally see in programming, it points to some variable, right? So we have to understand that when you say pointer, right? Pointer is something which points to a location, right? Now, when you say location, the location in our traditional sense can be anything in a program. So program, as you know, have multiple things. Generally, program has 4 things, right? So you'll have a code section, you will have a data, you will have a stack, and you will have a heap. These 4 areas, right? So at higher level, when you say, pointer can point to any one of these actually, okay? And then we have variables, so you can have local variables, global variables, those things, stack variables, which are again local in general, right, in C language. So it can point to variables, it can point to certain structure, because what is a structure? A structure is again a memory location. It's a collection of multiple homogeneous or heterogeneous data types. So it's a grouping basically, right? That's a structure. Pointers can point to a function, right? At one point, this pointer is pointing to one function, other point it is pointing to another function, right? So in a sense, it is pointing to memory. It can be any memory, a memory when you do a malloc, memory allocation, right? Okay. And then pointer to a void, right? So I think this is sometimes interesting, the last one. When you say pointer to a void, here the focus is to understand that sometimes when we allocate a piece of memory, we just don't know its use case. So most of those allocation functions, they give you a memory location where we just don't know what is the purpose. So it's really always a pointer to a void. Okay, void is in terms of data types basically. Okay, so it's basically a void pointer. Later we will do a typecasting, because when we use it, we are supposed to do typecasting so that compiler also knows that yes, the user is knows that where it should point to, what kind of data this memory location belongs to, isn't it? So in a nutshell, or in a summary, when we have to say a pointer variable, because in programming we have a variable, it's a pointer variable. So a pointer variable stores an address of any of the above things that I have discussed, right? So let's move on further to understand why we require a pointer. Now this is very interesting, okay, because many people say I have a pointer for this or that, but why do you really need it, right, in programming? So I have tried to give some justification. I have given some justifications about the need, the use case, for pointers. Okay, if you think about any real world programming, right, so real time is not static, because the world is not static. Every second, every millisecond, some activity happens. You are moving, you are eating, you are doing homework, you're doing programming. You are not static. Okay, so real time is never static. Lot of changes, it keeps happening, every moment, right? So everything when you see in the world is just dynamic in nature. Okay, think about some examples. Now there can be lots and lots of examples. I have an affinity towards kernel, in my past, so I usually jump into kernel actually. Okay, so for example, in kernel, processes, they keep on getting created and it keep on getting destroyed all the time, right? So when you do a ps command in Linux, you'll say processes, right? So you say new processes. Even if you do a command, that's a new process, isn't it? So processes are created, processes are destroyed. How many processes you can support in a kernel? Is it like 100, 1000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 1 million? We just don't know. Think about when you have to think about a situation, right? Suppose you are an author of your kernel process management and somebody says, okay, define one data structure to store these process IDs. Every process have an identification, isn't it? So what do? Do you want to create an array to store all the process IDs? The answer is no, right? Because you can have 100 processes, you can have 1,000, 1 million processes. You cannot allocate an array kind of a construct for that. Okay, it's a lot of wastage of time, as well as you're creating a boundary limitation in your own kernel design. Okay, as upper limit for that, right? So when you think about it, it's not really going to be an array. So it has to be some sort of a data structure that many of you already would be studying or might have studied. Okay, so we'll have some sort of a linked list or some other things, right? When people think about abstract data types, like we have a linked list, for example, right? Stacks, queues, right? So there you will always know there is some notion of pointers actually, especially in linked list. Okay, now you can say we can implement using pointers or an arrays. That's a different story. Okay, but they are abstract data types. They represent some entities actually, and how we are going to solve real world problems with them. Okay, so similarly, when you create a process, when you create a process, we say we have a program. So program is the code section, and then the data, and the stack, and then the heap, right? So when you have all four of these, you always keep on allocating memory. So when you remember that your stack and the heap are always dynamic, right? Okay, so how are you going to manage these basically in terms of memory allocations, right? You cannot have again a fixed memory allocation for a process. Okay, so memory allocations keeps on changing for the running process during runtime. Okay, so a lot of these, when you see, right, basically they can be easily solved using fundamentally like a pointer. At higher level you will have structures for them. Okay, but fundamentally it's like a pointer. Think about some other very different applications, right? So you have a Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. So many accounts are there. Any idea how many Gmail accounts or how many FB or Insta accounts are there in the world for each of these companies? Are they millions? Are they billions, right? So suppose somebody says I have a database, right? So database will keep on growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, 1 million records, for example. Okay, now when you're pulling out these records based on some user events or some activities, you are not interested in 1 million records, because not all 1 million users are active at the same time. They becomes active at different points in time, right? So you're pulling out data, storing somehow something. So eventually you will end up into some sort of references for them in your implementations of any of those engines, right? So if you have an engine for a Gmail app or a database, for example, right? So you will have a references for them. When you say references, you're really pointing to them, right? So fundamentally, it's a pointer. Okay, so you have a pointer, right? Think about data structures now, right? So we have a need for objects, right? Because we have objects which are dynamic in nature. So you have linked lists, stacks, queues, trees, and so on. And some of you already know that, we use a lot of pointers in some of these actually, okay? That's a different subject, okay? No, that's a data structure. It's a one level up. I'm talking about a very fundamental level, which is like a pointer. So when you want to become a good, serious developer, right, okay? Whether you can call yourself as a kernel developer or a system programmer or higher level also an application developer, knowledge about pointer is very necessary. It always helps you to code in a much neater and better way. Okay, so I think that's much for the real use case and motivation for pointers. So let's introduce pointer in C programming language now. Okay, so we'll get started with pointer in C programming language. So in C programming, we have to declare a variable. I'm not talking about a pointer variable now. Okay, I'm just talking about a variable. So if you have some variable for any work, right, you have to declare it's a character variable or an integer variable, so on and so forth. Okay. Think about it. When you create a variable, you are essentially telling the system or the language or the compiler that, okay, I want to store the value of the variable. And compiler, what it does is it allocates a memory location for it, right? So your objective is you say integer x equal to 100. So you have created a variable by name x and you want to store the value 100. What compiler did or the language did behind the scenes is it created a memory location. Right? So whenever you think of any programming variable directly, right, variable has a value, the value 100, and variable has an address. So x is the name of the variable, the value is 100. And then to store that x, you must have an address. Okay, so two things are there always, address and a value, right? Okay, so sometimes, or obviously, definitely, we require sometimes in our programming a construct, a feature which is supported by the programming language to store the address of a variable, right? And those are known as pointers. So how do we see this? We are saying that you have a variable name. So you have a variable name and then you see an asterisk here, right? Okay, so this asterisk is a differentiating factor. It says this variable name is a pointer to this particular data type. Okay, we'll cover it in more detail, not a problem. Okay, so let's take this example further. So we have created a p, right? P as a variable, and this variable is basically a pointer to an integer because we have an asterisk. The asterisk tells that p is a pointer. And this p is pointing to a variable of type integer. So what is p supposed to do? P is supposed to store the address, right? So p stores the address of an integer. And somebody says, no, I want to go to that address and get the value, right? So how do? We have a notion of something known as indirection operator, which is asterisk star p. It gives the value which is stored at that address, right? So I think that's how you should see it. In terms of understanding it little more, suppose we say, we need to understand it little more. Okay, so let's go and try to understand it little more now. Suppose I have declared or defined an integer x and I say integer pointer xp. Okay, you can see that whenever you see a variable, so whenever you do a definition, right, x is a variable. What is there on the left hand side? It's an integer. Okay, so the way you see in generally for our understanding is, okay, basically x is basically a integer, which means x stores an integer value. Okay, now what we did in the second line, we added one star in between, right? So we have an asterisk, so you can call like this: integer pointer xp. See, I am just playing with the space. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, what matter is you just have to look into the name. Okay, when you look into the name and try to put a bracket here, and now this bracket is just for our explanation, not from the point of view of programming for the time being. Okay, I'm trying to explain you how you can understand certain things sometimes better. Okay, so when you put a bracket like this, space doesn't matter in this case. Okay, I put a bracket. So what is the name of the variable here? The name of the variable is a xp. Okay, now what is the type of xp? When you look into x, the type is integer. When you look into xp, the type is a integer pointer or pointer to an integer. Okay, so when you say x equals to 100, then you are saying you are storing a value x. Sorry, you are storing a value 100 into x, right? Similarly, when you say xp equals to 100, now this is some issue, okay? But don't worry about this 100 and this 100, okay? So you can certainly do this, xp equal to 100. So, but remember that when we refer a variable by name like x, we know that the value is 100, it's an integer. When you refer a value by name xp, it is again 100. So we know that it's 100, but this is not an integer value 100 for our reading and calculating on that. It's basically a pointer. So basically it says a memory address 100. It's an address. If you can understand this much, then we know that there is a convergence in our thinking. Okay, so when you say x equals to 100, yeah, it's a variable x is equal to 100, it's xp equal to 100. In both cases, absolutely fine. We have assigned 100 to each one of them. Okay, but when you say x, what is this? It's an integer. So which means that you really are interested in storing a value 100, integer value. So x represents an integer value 100. What is xp? xp is not an integer value 100. No, it's a pointer. It's an address. Okay, so it's saying that, okay, xp is storing a memory address 100, which means that you have to jump into that memory address 100 to get the value, right? So just remember that. That's how we should try to understand these. There is nothing wrong in what we have written in terms of understanding. Okay. Now, the reason I'm spending more time is I've seen lots and lots of people getting confused with pointers. Okay, so you have to understand the basic concept. Pointer is an address. Whatever we assign it, we are assigning 100 to it. We are storing 100, which means it's a address of a memory location. Okay, all right. I will discuss more about it because this is a very fundamental class in terms of pointers. Okay, so I'll discuss quite more about it. Okay, all right. So we talked about this. Now, how do we jump into that location to get the real value? Okay, so come back here. Okay, so when you say xp equal to 100, it's a memory location 100, right? So suppose I say star xp. Now, when you say star xp is asterisk, so we say go to that memory location and get the value stored there. So in reality, what we are saying here is we are saying that we should go into basically. So we should go into the memory location 100. So we are jumping into that location. So it's a memory location. This memory location is an integer because it's a pointer to an integer. Okay. Now the address of this memory location is hexa 64. Let me write it in decimal for the sake of writing 100. Okay, yeah. So this is the address. Remember, this is an address of a memory location. So address I'm talking about the address 100 here. Okay, whatever is stored in this location is what will be returned by this, because we are jumping. Asterisk means jump into that memory location, and whatever is stored there, please get it from there, right? So it can store a value which can be 0 or a very large or undefined value, because we don't know what is there in the memory location 100. Okay, yeah. Mind you, this and this have very different meaning. Here you are simply assigning a value of 100 to a variable x. So when you say a variable x, there is a memory location for a variable x. Remember, I told you every variable has two things. So every variable has a address and a value. So there will be an address of x. So x will have some address, and there you are storing 100. Similarly, xp also has some memory location by the compiler. Okay, it's another memory location. And then you are storing 100. And then when you say star xp, what we are doing is, we will first see what is there in xp. xp says it is 100, isn't it? It says it is basically, it says basically it is 100, right? So just a second. So what is happening here now is, you are supposed to jump into 100. So we are jumping into the memory location 100, and whatever value is stored here will be returned in this one. Okay, so we need to understand this part. Okay, if you understand this part, then pretty much we know pointers. I know it is still difficult for some of you, but that is what is the crux of pointers. Okay, I will cover more with some examples. Okay, so let's move forward and try to understand with some examples and try to understand the meaning. So I have already explained things to you guys. Okay, so things might be simpler at this point of time for this particular slide. Okay, so what would be the output? Printf %d on a var. So we know that what is a var? It's just an integer value, right? It's an integer. So whenever we reference just a variable name, we are interested in the value. So it prints 100, right? It's 100. I think all of you know it's 100. What would be the output? %d p. So we are talking about p. What does p? P is ampersand of var. So this one thing I did not explain to you guys. Okay, so a variable, right? Once again, if I go further in the same slide now. Okay, so what you see here is, these are the things. Okay, so when you really look into the address, so we'll just start with one more example here. Okay, so let's start with an example about address part. Okay, yeah, so when you say ampersand of x, then we are really looking at address of a variable x here. Now what is the address of a variable x as per our understanding? Here, as I told you, the compiler has allocated a memory location for this. Okay, so ampersand of x will give you this memory location. Okay, we don't know what it is, but just I am indicating it here. Okay, so we are going to get the address, not the value. Okay, we are going to get the address, not the value. So if I come back into this, so p is storing the address of variable, right? So it is just p, right? So it is storing the address. So it will display the address. Address can be done with a %p, but for the sake of uniformity, I have done, ultimately it's a number. Okay, so it's a p. What would be the output for star p? Now star p means whatever address is there, please go and jump there and get the data. I think that's the idea here, right? So when you say p is ampersand of x, storing the address of variable, right? So jump into that address. When you jump into this address, the value will be 100. So star p will give you 100. So I think that's the summary. This might be easy for many of you now. Okay, let's move forward. So let's look into another perspective. Okay, I have seen many people, both new programmer as well as experienced programmer, they always find some level of difficulty in understanding pointers, even though they have gone through the entire C language. Okay, any idea why do you think that it is difficult? So you have to think for some time why a pointer is difficult. One of the reasons that I have seen is a lot of programmers try to think about logic for programs. Okay, when they think about logic for program, for example, many of you know how to print, for example, all the even numbers, write a program to print all odd numbers, factorial of a number, right? So when you do this, the focus is on that algorithm, focus is on that program logic. Okay, but the moment the concept of pointer comes, for the first time, we are thinking in a different way. We are thinking about memory addresses. Okay. So when you say we are thinking about memory addresses, that is not a natural way of thinking. Our natural way of thinking is solving a problem in terms of the problem statement. Right? So I think this can be one reason where I have seen, because always people have seen doing programming as an external environment where you think about some problem, solve that problem using a lot of variables. The moment you have to look into the system, into the memory somehow, right? Then it's a new way of thinking, and that's where a lot of problem happens. That's one way actually. Okay, so when you look into this particular example, I have declared multiple variables. Some of them are pointers with their values. Okay, so when you have to look into in a different perspective, what are some of the questions? How many variables are there? We know there are 3 variables in this example. Okay, now slightly more painful question, because these questions are not very natural. Okay, that is important, right? How much memory is needed to store the values of these variables? So now this is a question. You have to pause this video for few seconds to arrive at the answer. Any answer for this question? How much is memory is needed to store the values of these variables, isn't it? So look into this. This is an integer. So how much memory is needed? Now you're looking into the system, right? For the first time, for example. So 4 bytes on some of the systems, right? Now this is what? This is basically a pointer to an integer, isn't it? So how much memory is needed to store the values of these variables, right? So pointer, we require 8 byte on a 64-bit system. So here now we are thinking about 64-bit system, and then maybe some other kind of systems, 32-bit systems, right? So here some more knowledge is needed. You are now thinking in a different perspective. Okay. Now here we have a PP, right? So another pointer, it's a pointer. So what does pointer? How much memory is needed to store the values of these variables, right? So here also it is basically an 8 byte. So thinking are changing, when you start, doing like this actually. Let's look further. Suppose I need to store the addresses of these variables, right? I have to store the addresses. Then how much memory is needed, isn't it? So in the previous case, it was values of these variables, right? In this case, it was the value. And in this case, it is the address. Sorry, this is the address. So address of a var is, var is a variable, right? Okay, I need to store the address. P is also a variable and PP is also a variable. A variable is a variable and we have to store their addresses. On a 32-bit system, it is 4 plus 4 because an address is a 4 byte. On an 8-bit system, for example, 8-byte system or a 64-bit system, the addresses are like this. Okay. Now, yeah, so you get some data here, isn't it? So when you think like this, I think our perspective changes. It is not about looking into the problem or the logic for which we have written a program. Here we are thinking in a very different way, a more system oriented way, a more memory oriented way, right? And this is where, people are not used to programming, right? And this is where I have seen people face, a lot of difficulties. Okay. So remember that whether you are finding it difficult or not, it is a way of thinking, which somehow is a new way of thinking. So even if you are finding it difficult, slowly you will solve this, right? You will overgo this problem, you will forego this problem. Okay, we will do a bunch of understanding exercises to understand this concept in a much neater way now. Okay, so here I have written one memory based approach towards some of these problems, right? So these problems we have to understand and try to solve them with our understanding of the memory and the addresses. Okay, so you have a lot of questions that we'll ask in these few slides now. So what you should do to get the maximum learning out of this slide is always have a piece of pen and paper. And if you can code, you can do coding. I think you can also have your terminal to code, not a problem, right? Okay, but just don't watch this video just for the fun of it, because pointer programming is not fun, it's serious actually. Okay, so my goal will be to definitely teach you, but you have to be really be serious here. Okay, so let's look into what I have done here. Okay, in this, the first thing is I have written an address of a variable called var, right? So here you have a variable called var, and then you have a pointer called p. These two are there. So somewhere in the memory, the address of the variable is hexadecimal 1000. I repeat, I am writing hexadecimal 1000. Okay. Similarly, the address of p. P is a variable. It's a pointer variable, but doesn't matter, because as I told you, every variable has a address. Every variable has a value. So compiler has given an address of p as, for example, hexadecimal 2000. Okay, so these are just random values I have written. It has no relationship with how the compiler behaves. This is just for our ease of understanding. Okay, so what is stored? Val equal to 100. So we are storing a value 100 into the memory location at var. So we are writing 100. So the value here is 100. 0 and 1 I have written just to distinguish. Okay, just for distinguishing. Okay, but the thing is the value 100 is written here. Now p stores. So this is the declaration and initialization together. Okay, so p stores the address of a var. Okay, so here we have p, which is 2000. This is the real address of p. In this memory, we are going to store the value. What is the value? Address of var. Okay. So the question for you will be obviously now the first two questions. What would be the value of var? So suppose you want to display var percentage %d or percentage %x, doesn't matter, right? Okay. The question is, what would be the value of var? So now if I am going to check with you, you can always pause your video, okay, and then see each one of them. So what does var contain? Var, we have done an assignment of 100, you can see here, obviously. Okay, so it is also storing, obviously, you can see 100 here. So obviously the value of var will be 100. I repeat, whenever we reference any variable name as it is, we are always looking into the value stored for that variable name. Okay. Next is, what will be the value of this guy, right? Ampersand, this guy. Ampersand means address of var. What is the address of var? So just one second. Yeah, I'm back now into the slide. What's the address of var? Address of variable var is nothing but this guy, right? So this is going to be hexadecimal 1000, isn't it? So that's how we are going to solve one by one. What would be the value of p, right? So the next one is more interesting. It says, what's the value of p? The value of p is nothing but an address of var. Address of var will be, so what is stored here? This is a question mark. So the thing we are going to solve here is, as we now know that it is going to store the address. The address was nothing but your hexadecimal. Yeah, you can pardon me for this, a small mistake. It is 0x 1000. Okay, yeah. So yeah, if I have to undo the annotation, So the address which is going to, so this is the value now. Okay, so the address of the previous guy, hexadecimal 1000, that is going to be stored. Okay, so I think this is clear for all of us now. Let's move to the next one. What would be the value of ampersand of p? Now we are looking at a variable p and its address. Variable p and its address. Its address is already there, 2000. So we don't have to worry about, right, basically. So when you see one by one, this is nothing but your hexadecimal. That's an address, 2000. Okay, and then p I already told you. P is I forgot to write it here. It is this. Okay, next one. What would the value of star p? Okay, so this is very interesting. So we are looking into star p. So go to p, look at the value, what is there in the p, and then jump into that memory location. Okay, so what is there in the p? So what is there in the p? So this is the memory location p. What's in the p? It's hexadecimal 1000. So in reality, what we are saying is, look into this and jump into that memory location and get the value. So jump into this memory location. So this is address 1000, jump and get the value. So the value is 100 here. Okay. So I think that's what you will see here when we talk about star of p, right? So it's nothing but star of hexadecimal 1000. So we have to jump into that memory location and then we are going to get one absolute value of 100 here. And then what's the value of star p, right? So we already know that it's a two level of indirection. So we read it from right to left always, right? So go into the p. So p has the value 1000. The first one will say star p, like this guy. Okay, so jump into that and then get the value 100. So you got the value 100. And the second one says star p once again. Okay, so when you look into this, it is going down into what you have seen up to previous 100. And then what we are going to do here is we are going to say star 100, right? Which means that jump into that memory location of 100 and then get the value, right? Some of you might say that, no sir, it is not possible because it is a single pointer. Okay, yes, I very well understand that it's a single pointer. It's not a double pointer. Okay, I have made it look like a double pointer. It's a double pointer here. This is a single pointer. But the purpose is not about the syntax checking and the semantics as far as this goes. The purpose here is for us to understand how things work. Okay, I can always tell compiler that this construct is fine. When you compile this code, suppose you write a code for this, when you compiler will say it's a compilation error because you are doing a double pointer whereas the p is a single pointer. That's perfectly fine. Okay, but I can still tell compiler, no, I want to treat it like as a double pointer. So especially in C language, we have a very powerful feature where programmers are supreme. Okay, so you can do the way you would want, and if compiler creeps, if compiler throws a compilation error, you can always tell compiler, no, this is not an error, this is what I would want. So you do some sort of typecasting, as you know, in C language, and then be happy. Compiler will be happy. So I can easily have an error for this when you do this, but I can tell compiler, don't do this because I really wanted it to be like a double pointer. Okay, so you can tell most of these things in some style actually. Okay, so the idea is to understand the basics or the fundamentals, and that's the reason I have written here. Okay, so when you say start 100, it will jump there. Now what could happen? Whatever is there in that memory location will be returned to us. If that memory location is accessible, we will read it. If that memory location is not accessible to us, it's not part of our process memory, then we'll have a different problem, always known as segmentation fault in Linux, zigzag. Okay, but that's a different story. Okay, but coming back here, yes, the objective is first to understand how to look into pointers, variables, single pointer, double pointer. We'll have some more complicated declarations coming forward actually. Okay, now when you look into another one now, right, what is another one? Another one is star var, right? We are looking into dereferencing or indirection or jumping into var. Var is just a integer, right? So again, compiler comes to our rescue and say it's a compilation error, wrong usage. Okay, but my objective was here again to make sure that you understand what we are doing. Okay, So what is the meaning of, you don't have to worry the data types here, okay? The objective is to understand the beauty of these variables and how this pointer and then the ampersand are, working hand on hand. So what is the thing star var? So just say star, and what is there in that var? You know that the var stores 100. Just go into 100 here, okay? Once you go into 100, you are jumping there and getting the value. It is as simple as that, okay? So the bottom line here is, you should not worry about this. Look into what is written here and try to have your understanding. What you want to read, what you want to access, what you want to write maybe, okay? Now, depending on whether it is a real thing or it's a bug or an error or your intelligent forced way of doing stuff, okay? It all programmers logic. If you can understand this slide, this particular one, right? I think the job well accomplished by me, because pointers is not a tough thing. It's pretty easy and as good as this slide and one more. One more means I have some more variation to eliminate your confusion, okay? Before I jump there, I have to jump into the lab exercise for you. Lab exercise will allow us to just validate what we have written, plus some more concepts are there, okay? See, theory is one way to understand concept. When you start doing some lab, sometimes you will have surprising results, and we will try to solve some of them, okay? So as I told you, star P is a place where compiler will say, oh, you can't do anything, but I will teach you a way in which you can tell compiler, no, I want it my way. Okay, so I want it my way is the motto, right? So let's go into the lab and then do some of the exercises. Alright, so we will start our first experiment. We will try to understand some of the things that we have noted down here. I have already coded this program for you. Okay, so we have a variable with a value 100 and you have a pointer p with the address of the variable. Okay, so now what we will do is we will try to print the values for var and ampersand of var, then p and then ampersand of p, star p, star p, and then star var, right? When you do some of these things, compiler will have a problem. So what we will do is we will first comment out these guys. Okay, so let's try to compile this code where we are going to display var. So var is 100, ampersand of var is really the address of this, p is storing the address, okay, and then address of p and star p, right? So when you run this code, you will pretty much know where we are at. Okay, so let me compile this cc-sfpointer.com. So absolutely no errors here because I have commented out those lines. Okay, let's try to run this code. So what you see is var equals to 100. Okay, so variable is 100, so that's where var equal to 100. What's the address of var? That's the address of var, and this address is on my 64-bit machine, right? It's a 64-bit Linux. Similarly, p. So p is a pointer, as you know. Pointer stores the address of var, which is same what you see here, right? So address of var is this, so this is this. So both are same. So this is how you are going to validate this and these are same. So you know that these are same. Now p is another pointer, so it has its own address, and its own address is basically ampersand of p, right? So you get some address, a different address here. You are going to jump into that, right? So the last one was star p. So star p. So p stores an address, jump into that location and you will get the value of 100 there. Okay, so that's how var equal to 100 and star p equal to 100 now. Right, so I hope you got it. This is simple. This is the first cut in terms of understanding. Now look into second cut, right? So second cut is here. We'll comment out and remove this. Now here we have interesting thing. Okay, so we'll do a sinu. Line number 26, I'm creating an error. Line number 27. Okay, when you compile this code, compiler says it's an error. Invalid argument type of the unary integer, right? Haven't. So it says that you are trying to do a double pointer and then again a pointer to an integer. In both the cases, star p maximum can be an integer. Okay, so this is the wrong. Here also star var is an integer, so star var will have a problem, right? So it says invalid argument type, which is star. We already are integer, so you cannot do a star on an integer. That's the real meaning on the error side. Okay. How we can solve this? We are now going to tell the compiler that no, we really wanted it to be like that, right? So just to make things slightly better, I am taking star p down. Okay, so because star p will print the value, we know that it is 100. Okay, so just for printing, so we are jumping into 100 here. That's the objective here. Jump into the memory location 100 and get the value. Okay, so we are supposed to get that. So if I do like this, I can tell the compiler that wait, let me do my typecast. Okay, so I'm somehow doing some sort of a typecast. We know that star p is an integer. You say, then we are telling compiler, no, I know that it is an integer, but I want it to be an integer pointer, and then jump there and then get the value, right? And this is what is, I say, is an intelligent coding in many situations. Many situations we really want to do something the way we know what the data is. We don't want the compiler. We want to do the things our way because we know the real logic. We know the real, so-called code, right? Okay. Same here, var is nothing but an integer. If you see var, it's an integer here, right? So star var is just not possible. Compiler will have a problem. So we say, no, we want var to be an integer pointer. We know that it's programming, it is an integer, but you say, no, please treat it like a pointer and then jump, right? So when we do things like this, then compiler will oblige. Compiler says, okay, programmer wants different, okay? So watch out in this compilation. When I did a compilation, the first thing is that error is no longer there in this. There is no error. Only thing that happens is some sort of a warning, right? Now we are getting an additional warning here. This warning for our current example is harmless. Basically, what the warning says that you are basically converting an integer into some sort of a pointer. Integer is a different size, it is a 4 byte, and then you are converting into an 8 byte pointer on the 64-bit machine, right? So that's the warning it is giving. It's a different warning, we can ignore it for the time being. Okay, we can still eliminate all the errors, okay, but that's not the purpose here. The purpose is just to understand and then jump, right? The objective is to jump. Okay, so we have these two as a choice, line number 26 and 27. So compiler says 26 and then 27. You can see 26, 27, right? All right. So the code is working in terms of compilation. So compilation is through. Let's do a runtime. Runtime, the value. So what should be the output? It's all commented out. The first line should be 100 and hopefully something in the second and third line, right? So a.out. So the first line is 100, but the second line itself hopefully looking like it's a segmentation fault because the memory address 100 cannot be read by us. It is not part of our process address space. Anything which is not part of our process address space will be a segmentation violation. Okay. Sometimes people say it's a general protection fault. Okay, but in Linux we always say segmentation fault. The segment, whatever segment we are referring is not accessible. Okay, and then we get a core file, a core dump. So the objective is met here. What is met here? We are jumping into 100, right? Star 100. This is 100. We are jumping into star 100 and we have a problem, right? So I hope now you kind of understood this particular portion of a code, what I have written. So let's move forward into the class and then we'll try to understand something more. Okay, this is as far as pointer representation in our memory is concerned. We'll look into the double pointer representation now. Okay, so we are going into double pointers. So these are the same. Let's look into a new one. Star pp equal to ampersand of p. So we are doing a definition, declaration, initialization, everything together with a pp variable. Pp is a variable, all three variables, right? it will have a value, it will have a address. So what is the pp? Put a bracket, as I say, on the left hand side of the variable name, just put a bracket for your common understanding. Okay, so it's a pointer. So basically it's a pointer to an integer, double pointer. Okay, so that's the real meaning. So it stores. So what does it mean now, right? So for some of you who are really always worried about pointers, so what does it real mean? We'll just quickly see that, right? So whenever we write integer, pointer, pp, just put a bracket. You don't care, right? Just put a bracket for your understanding. So it says pp is a pointer. So this is one pointer. Okay. Again, put one more bracket for your understanding. Okay. Like this. So pp is a pointer. Done. Your job is done. pp is a pointer. Now what next? It is pointer to what? It is not pointer to an integer. It's a pointer to a integer pointer, right? Or it's a pointer to somebody who is pointing to an integer. So it's a pointer to an integer pointer, right? So in reality, the way we write it is also, this is clear. So that's the reason we say pp is a pointer to another pointer, which is an integer, right? So put a bracket. If you think this helps, always put a bracket, and I think it helps actually. Okay, so you are always free to put a bracket here. First one will help. Okay, it's a pointer. Perfect. Is it a pointer to an integer? No, it's a pointer to another pointer. Okay, it's another pointer, right? And that pointer is pointing to another integer, right? To an integer. So I think that's how things evolve actually, right? Integer, pointer, PPP, right? So what is PPP? For you, yeah, you can say 1 pointer, 2 pointer, 3 pointer, but ultimately it's a pointer. That's what we know. PP is a pointer. Pointer to what? You can just write these two, whatever is remaining in your understanding, right? This is the next one remaining in our understanding, right? So once you do this, yeah, it's a pointer to an integer pointer, and we already know that, it is what? Pointer to an integer. So this can be replaced with, pointer to a pointer to an integer, right? That is what I've done. Pointer to a pointer to an integer, right? I think that's what we should understand. Okay, double pointers are nothing to be worried about. Triple pointers are nothing to be worried about. We just need to worry about what address they are storing. All are storing address: single pointer, double pointer, and triple pointers. Okay, but if they store an address of what particular pointer type or what particular type, right? So that will help us in terms of navigating the series of pointers, and that will also help compiler to verify the code that you have written, whether you are following a good coding practice. So compiler always checks, saying that whether it's a single or a double or a triple, right? It's a good thing. So compiler is your friend now. Okay, so make use of it. Come back into the class. So what I have done here now is we have done variable P and PP. So variable P and PP. So I have given a fictitious address, hexa 1000, hexadecimal 2000, and hexadecimal 3000. Okay. When you look into this further, any idea what is integer P? It stores, what is P? It stores the address of variable. What is address of variable? So P, this is the memory location. It stores what? Address of a var. Address of var is 1000. So we should go ahead and then write down the value of 1000 here, isn't it? So we should simply go ahead and then write down the value 1000. So let me go and write down. So what should be here? 1000. Similarly, PP. Don't worry about the double pointer. Just look into PP. What does it store? It stores address of P. So what is the address of P? 2000. So you simply store the address of P here. Okay. So when you see this, it stores this guy, 2000, right? So now you know all the three variables, and then what do they store. So what would be the value of PP? Now you should pause this video slowly, right? One by one you should pause and then resume. Okay, so what should be the value of PP? Whenever we refer a value, whenever we refer only to a variable name, whenever we see a variable name, we have to just see what is stored in that memory for that variable name. So memory for this variable name is 3000. What is stored there? 2000 is stored, hexa, right? So we have no choice. We have to simply write 2000 here. Okay, because we are simply looking at the value which is stored in that variable address. What's the value of ampersand of PP? So we are saying that I want the address. I don't want the value of that PP, right? It's stored in the PP. I want the address. Address is 3000. So it's pretty simple that way right now, right? So it's basically 3000. You can always pause the video. What would be the value of star PP? So look into the right hand side. Okay, you look into PP. So PP means hexadecimal 2000. So this is what hexadecimal 2000. What is star? Jump into that memory location and get the value. This value is 1000. Hexadecimal 1000, isn't it? So you go ahead and read, right? Now comes interesting. Star PP. So we have already done our work. What is our work? Half work is done. So with star PP, we have hexadecimal 1000. We just say, okay, no problem. Go to that particular memory location. Basically, go to this location, jump, and then get the value. That's the meaning of this star, right? So go to that 1000. So we are here 1000. Get the value. The value is 100. Okay. So jump to that location and then get the value. So this value will be 100. Right, so I think things are becoming clear for you also. Now some amount of a tidbit for you to understand. You don't have to worry about what is written here. Just focus on this because this will help you actually. Okay. So what we are saying is, I want to do an address of P. Address of P. That's what this guy means. And then jump. This is address of P, and star means go to that location and get the value. Okay. So when you look into these two together, like what is address of P? Address of P is nothing but 2000. Star of that means go to that and then get the value, which is nothing but 1000. So if you really see, it is kind of somehow foolish, it is fooling us. Because when you see these two together, it is nothing but a P. Okay, what is P? When you refer to P, it means go and get the value at the memory location for P. The value is 1000. So these two kind of negated. Okay, so it's an address and a star, right? So it's kind of fooling us. So this is same as P. When you do a star on this, asterisk on this, then you say, okay, go to that guy and get the value. So we have to go to 1000 and get the value. So the value is 100, right? So when you do a star on this, obviously we are going to get the value 100 here, right? Now you are pretty knowledgeable, right? So I have not put a bracket here, but just try to look into this, right? Basically, so when you say PP, get the address and then star. So these two are negated. This will be replaced by PP itself. So technically, yeah, you can still go, as per understanding, go into that address of PP, which is 3000, and then do a first star, which means go and jump that location. So you get 2000, but that is same as PP anyways, right? So these entire things, when you see, it kind of boils down, right? It kind of boils down into, just a second. Yeah. So this boils down into finally this PP has negated. We are negating these two. We are removing these two. We are left with this star and then this star. So put these two star. So jump into PP. So this is what is PP, right? 2000 basically. Okay. So now we look into this, right? So we say, okay, jump into the 2000 and get the value, which is nothing but 1000. Okay. So this boils down to nothing but 1000 as a next step. hexadecimal 1000, sorry. So when you do an hexadecimal on that 1000, right? So you say the last one is star. So jump into that and then get it. So you are getting this 100 here, right? You are getting this 100. So finally it will be 100. If I had put one more star here, then you say star 100. And star 100, if it is part of your memory, you will get the value. If it is not part of your memory, then you will have a crash. 6 agree. Okay. So that's what I am doing here. One more star, right? One more star means jump into that 100 further. Star 100, right? So when you see this, it is nothing but the last step is star on the 100, which can be a question mark depending on whether you have access to that memory, right? So I think this is what it is. We'll quickly jump onto the lab for this to get into the real code, right? So we will do that. So we have a double pointer. We have Sanfoundry double pointer on this. Okay. So the code is almost the same here. We will simply run it and then we'll have a problem. If there is a problem like I have solved here, the last one. Okay. So you can certainly pause this video. I am going at slightly, maybe slightly fast speed because I have written this code, but people who are watching this, I think it's a good thing to watch it slowly. Try to see every line that I have written. There is a purpose for it. Okay. And this line is very interesting. Okay. So let me first comment this out so that, at least we will have a slightly different focus. So some of you might think that these two will create, compilation error because ampersand and star star, same here, so many star 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 and then ampersand, right? Let's see whether the compiler creeps or not. I have already given you the logic, right? If you see my code, the logic is there in this explanation. Okay, so things will all work fine actually. Let's look into the compiler. Okay, so we'll have double pointer now. So compiler was absolutely fine. Okay, so that's what I mean. See, we need to understand everything, right? So I have done a slightly faster code here. First we want to put just pp. pp stores ampersand of p. Okay, so pp and then address of pp is different, star of pp is different, right? All these three are different. Okay, now comes star star pp. Okay, star star pp. Okay, so star star pp means really you are going into this, from here you are going here and then into here. So that value will be 100. Similarly, when you do this and then this, you will go back into the world of 100. Okay, these two. Yes, you can see this code where I have written all of them one by one. Okay, the last one, triple star, right? So let's focus on the triple star part. We'll simply comment out this entire thing. Okay, we'll uncomment this. Originally I had written like this. Okay, so when you write like this, you remember that pp is basically a two-dimensional, is a double pointer. We are treating like a triple pointer, right? So compiler will have a problem. When you compiled, it says error. Why? Because this is not possible. Already your integer, you are trying to do a dereference on that. Okay, so that's what it's saying. You can't do a dereference on that. When you do up to star pp, see, when you see this, right, basically it's an integer now. Okay, I said pp means pp is a 2 times double pointer, right? So you can easily see, and then if you take star p, then it's an integer pointer. Another way of seeing things. And here star p, it's an integer, and then you want to dereference that integer, right? So that is not possible. Compiler has to complain. But now we are intelligent programmer, so we are typecasting this. This is an integer. We are typecasting it as an integer pointer. Once you typecast, just jump into that, right? So at this point of time, compiler will not have a problem in compilation. Yeah, you got a warning because of that integer which is 4 byte, you are converting into an 8 byte pointer, but there is no error. This error is gone. So we are going to jump into that memory location 100 to get the value. We have to see whether it works or not, right? So when you compile it, you will have a problem, which means our program does not have access to the memory location 100, right? I have created a Telegram group, right? The purpose of this is when you watch videos, when you watch some of these, right? You might have doubts on a specific slide, a specific point, specific timeline in a specific video, right? I'll be posting all of these video links in Telegram, maybe, right? Also, whatever I have published. So you can ask more questions there, direct questions, okay? And all future announcements, as I told you, will always happen in this Telegram group now, okay? All right. So we understood it now, okay? The next thing in our discussion would be pointer, arithmetic, and scaling factor. So in this particular topic, we'll have one very common understanding, okay? When you talk about pointer arithmetic, what is the meaning of it? That is what we have to understand, right? Pointer arithmetic means that we have a pointer, we are trying to do some addition, deletion, multiplication, subtraction operations on those pointers, okay? So generally, we have to first give the definition of a scaling factor, okay? Pointers get incremented by the size of the data type of the variable to which it is pointing to, and this is known as your scaling factor. For some of you, I'm sure you might know this, okay? For some of you, it may be slightly new, okay? So suppose you have a pointer to an integer. If you do a +1 to that pointer, you do a p++. So you wanted to increment that pointer, right? So will the new value of the pointer, that address, will it be incremented by 1 or something else, right? That is what is the question mark, okay? So what we are trying to say here is, right, basically, suppose you have these three variables as in the previous slide. You have to answer yourself, right? You have to understand what should be the value of var +1. So we already know that var is the value of 100. So when you say 100 + 1, answer would be 101. This is the answer. I think this is fine because we are doing an integral values addition and subtraction. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. Let's look into something else now. What should the value of p +1, right? Now, if you look into our previous slides, basically our previous slides, right, where we have already mentioned, suppose the base address of p was 1000, right? So remember, we suppose p stores that, the base address of variable was suppose 1000, right? This is what we had in our previous slides. Now when you say 1000 + 1, because that is what we are doing here, okay? P, what does p? P stores the address of var, right? What does p? P stores the address of var, and address of variable, if you see in our previous slides, it was 1000. So 1000 + 1 to many of you will be 1000 hexadecimal. Is this answer right or wrong, and why? This is very important to know. Okay, so we'll cover that with a demo. Okay, I will explain that. Similarly, pp +1. What is pp? Right? pp is a double pointer. It's a pointer to a pointer. I know it's a pointer, but it's a pointer to an integer pointer. It stores the address of p. What is p? P is a pointer. In our previous example, the address was hexadecimal 2000. Okay, the address was address of p, right? It was actually a hexadecimal 2000, right? +1. So we are doing +1 to it. What will be the address? 2000 2001. That's what we would think. Okay, is the answer right or wrong? We have to really understand it. That is very, very important. Okay, now some of you might have told this might be not 1, it will be 1004. Here some of you might say it will be 2004 or 2008 or something like that. Okay, we have to understand it. Okay, so I have introduced the concept of scaling factor. Okay, what is the meaning of scaling factor? Pointer increments. When you do +1 like this, pointers get incremented by the size of the data type of the variable to which it is pointing to, and this is known as scaling factor. With that example in mind, if you jump into the scratch pad, we will try to quickly solve this, right? Basically, so let's go into the scratch pad once. Okay, so when you look into this, we are talking about scaling factor. Okay, that is for a pointer. So when you talk about p+1, right, when you're talking about p+1, so what is the size of the data type where the pointer is pointing to? So p is a pointer, it is pointing to an integer, right? So suppose the base address of pointer was 1000, then we have the size of the data type we can write. So size of the data type of this was an integer, size of integer. Okay, so this is how it boils down to. You will see that it hexadecimal 1000. Suppose that was the base address. Okay, size of integer is 4, so the new address will be 4. Why is it so? Because when you say pointer is pointing to one memory which is 4 byte, obviously when you increment the pointer, it is pointing to another 4 byte, right? So that is very important because it's a pointer to an integer, which means it's pointing to a memory location of 4 bytes. So when you increment the pointer, the natural thinking is it should also point to the next 4 byte. So that's the reason we are incrementing by 4 byte. Okay. When you talk about pp+1, right? pp+1. So base address of suppose pp was 2000. Okay, you can ignore it, but that's not a problem. Size of. So what does pp point to? pp points to, pp is a pointer, as I told you. So read like this, which means you are going to put a bracket here. This is very important. What is pp? pp is a pointer. It is pointing to not an integer. It is pointing to an integer pointer. Okay, so it's pointing to an integer pointer. So what's the base address? Base address was 2000. Now what's the size of integer pointer? That is very interesting. Integer pointer will be 4 byte on a 4 byte system, and it's an 8 byte on an 8 byte system, right? So things become slightly more complicated generally depending on the size of the data type, right? So you have these answers. So I hope I made some of these things clear at this point of time. Okay, so scaling factor is nothing but the size of the data type where the pointer is pointing to, and that's where the increment or decrement comes into effect in terms of pointer operations. We will cover something more now. Okay, so this is clear in terms of scaling factor. What is sometimes not clear is what do we want to do for 2 pointers arithmetic operations. Okay, so in this example you will see p and q are pointer. P is pointing to a integer variable and q is again pointing to the p, which means the address of p and q are same. Later I incremented to q by 1, so q plus plus, right? So when you say q plus plus, q got incremented by 4, right? Because it's an integer pointer. So what would be the value of q minus p, q plus p, q into p, right? We have to think about it, right? So let's think about some of these, because one way is look into this, right? Q minus p. Yes, you can do a difference between these 2 pointers. So the question is, this q will have an address. Suppose it's an address. Suppose p had an address of 1000, right? Suppose p is pointing to 1000, right? So q plus plus became 1004. So the difference between this and this on the face of it will be 4. The question is, will it be 4? Right? That's one. Second one is, you have a Q was 1004 and then Q plus P, right? So we are looking into these two, 1004 and then 1000. Can we add them? Can we multiply them? So addition of 2 pointers, what does it give me in terms of our meaning, right? Basically, I think it does not give anything basically. When you do a multiplication, it's just meaningless. Addition, it's meaningless. Difference will give us, because difference will give us some relative positioning of certain number of objects of that particular data type. But if you add it 1004 and then 1000, it becomes like, if it is a decimal, it becomes 2004, right? Basically. Hexadecimal also 2004 now, actually. Okay, yeah. So if it goes to a totally different memory location which has no meaning, if expressions have no meaning, why should compiler support it? Compiler should not support. Multiplying 2 pointers, what does it mean? It just means nothing, you know. So compiler should not support these kind of operations. Okay. So look into the lab demo. We will try to do this, and then I will show you some variations where the answer can be 1 or answer can be 4. Okay. So I'll show you some variations. So these are slightly interesting lab. Quickly jump into the lab for this, and then we'll try to understand the details. Okay. Alright, so we'll have some arithmetic operations on a pointer. Okay. So here we have, as you know, P, Q, and you have a Q equal to P and then Q plus plus. Whichever is not needed, I am going to comment it out. However, yeah, you can certainly, look into entire thing in a slow mode. So we will discuss about what we discussed. I did a Q plus plus, and I'm going to do a Q minus P first. Okay, we will see. We will understand things, right? So you can always have your own understanding, and then once the printf is out, you should see whether you are correct or not, actually, right? Okay. So we'll do a CC on SFPTR, and then we'll have an arithmetic operation. So compilation is successful. At this point of time, lot of printf is there. The P will be there, and then the Q will be there, and the difference will be there. Okay. So if you see, P is this 2cc and then 2d0. So after C we have a D, actually. Okay. So they are pointers to an integer, right? Basically. So when you have a pointer to an integer, compiler knows that we are going to have distinct addresses, integers. So 4 bytes apart, basically. Okay, so they are 4 bytes apart. So this is P. So CC, this is in hexadecimal. So one of the other requests for a lot of people is, you should understand hexadecimal. There is no escape saying that I don't know hexadecimal. If you want to be a C programmer, ignore the decimal. Understand hexadecimal, understand octal, understand binary. Decimal anyway we all know. Okay, so understand other. They are far more important in programming than the decimal numbers in lot of situations. Okay, so when you say CC plus 4, so C, D, E, F, and then one carry forward, so becomes 0, and then carry forward become D0. So 4 bytes apart. So P and Q are 4 bytes apart. However, Q minus P is not giving us 4, it will give 1. Why? Because they are relative. We are talking about pointers, right? So they are relative positioning. So one previous pointer and the current pointer, think like that, or the current pointer and the next pointer, the difference of that, think like that, right? So difference is only 1 in terms of pointer arithmetic, jumping in the pointers. Okay. Why? Because these pointers are again size of the data types. They are pointing to integers. So that's the reason the difference is 1 for them. In terms of the chunk, is the unit of operation is 4 bytes for them. So the difference in the 4 byte unit is only 1. One address, another address, the difference is 4 byte, it is 1. Okay. How it can become 4? That's an interesting problem. Okay. So we'll make it 4 now. So look into this code below. Okay, I have already done this somewhere here. Yeah. So here I have typecasted this pointer saying that no, you are a character pointer. Character pointer means every memory location can be a pointer. So one pointer, increment in next character, increment next character, increment next character. Okay. So you will see this character pointer, they are just incremented by 1 because they are pointing to a character location. The size of character is 1. So the scaling factor is 1 there. And that is the reason, when you look into programming in terms of character pointer and strings, they are so synonymous. Lot of string operations we accomplish using a character pointer. Okay. So they are just synonymous in terms of activities. Okay. So let's compile this code and try to see where we stand in terms of this line, second one, right? So cc a dot out. So still same, right? You see the difference is 4 here, but it is an integer pointer 1. If it is a character pointer 4. Now I think one of the user has asked me in YouTube, quite early on, right? If it is a void pointer, what do we do? Right? So we discussed there's an integer pointer, then you have a character pointer. So let's look into the void pointer now. Okay. So when you are looking into this is a character pointer, we'll do a last one. Void pointer. Void pointer. Okay. This is the last one. So just to distinguish it, I am writing in bracket. Okay. So they are basically QMA. So we are saying integer PTR. Their integer pointer. This is a character char PTR, and this is the void PTR. Okay. So you have to understand some of the details about limitations of the compiler. Okay. Void is usually a debatable item because void means nothing, and then void pointer has a meaning here. Okay. Because void means nothing. Void pointer essentially says that there's a piece of memory, we just don't know how to treat it. What is the real data type for it. So we say it's a void pointer. Okay. Who returns void pointer? Some of you might know. I might have told in one of the classes. Okay. The most popular way of allocating a piece of memory in C language is always a malloc. Have you ever looked into the man page of malloc in terms of data types or the return types? Okay. When you casually look or seriously now, malloc always return a void pointer. Not only malloc, all of its cousin. What are the various cousins? Calloc, realloc, right? They always return a void pointer, right? So don't think that void pointer is just an exception. Nobody uses it. It's absolutely wrong. Void pointer is basically the well-defined method by which memory allocators allocate you a piece of memory because they don't know the user, how you are going to use it. So the only way in the language to satisfy that request is a void pointer. Okay. All right. So this is a valid one, right? Void pointer is a valid one. Now the problem is when you do a size of void or a void pointer, right? We have to understand what it means actually. Right? When you say void means nothing. So practically it is like 0. So we have to just go into the documentation of the compiler. If you are in a C compiler on Linux or a Windows or some embedded systems, they can say void pointer can be 0. Sorry. They can say void. Size of void can be 0 because void means nothing. Or some compiler can choose to say, no, I will take the size of void as 1, and that's a surprise. But that's how they have implemented it. Okay. But in our case, we are not interested in size of a void. We are interested in a void pointer, for example. Right. So let's try to see what it will give as a answer. Okay. So character pointer we discussed. Right. So here what you got basically a 4. So it has treated a void pointer as just an absolute address, and then another void pointer absolute address, and then did a difference. What is the size of data type for a void? We just don't know. Right? Somebody will say 0, somebody will say 1. So GCC, the compiler on which I am running, GCC says size of void is 1. Why 1? It's just a way of implementation. There may be certain benefits for that. Okay. If you look into some other compilers, maybe some Windows, I'm not sure, but you have to check some other compiler, right? Size of void can be 0 there because that's what it really means. Okay. So sometimes these answers are, difficult to comprehend. Okay. So void pointer, which means we have to look into the data type where it is pointing to, right? Basically, so we are doing arithmetic there basically. So it has just taken the default value of 1, and then it just did an absolute difference between these two, and the answer is 4, like a character pointer. Okay. All right. So having covered that much, let's look into the last one. And what is the last one? Last one is pointer arithmetic further. Now, as I told you that difference between two pointer makes sense because we are looking into, the positioning of the pointers, positioning of the elements in that range, right? But if you do addition, we are simply adding 2 and then you are going to some very different memory location. We do multiplication, we are doing something similar, going into very different memory locations. Okay. So does it make sense? The answer is it doesn't make sense. So addition of pointers like this should be, as you have already got it right? Should be thrown out as an error by the compiler because it just does not make sense. Right, so it's an error in the language to have a addition, multiplication, and division operation. Okay, so only difference will work in terms of pointer arithmetics, not the other things. However, we can always increment and decrement a pointer like p plus 1, p minus 1, p plus 2, p minus 2. Everything is fine, right? So you can always have a code in which you can say p equals to p plus 100. So you are jumping 100th positioning into the memory location. Positioning means because it's the size of the scaling factor, right? It's the size of the data type, scaling factor. So you are going like that. You can always do p equal to p minus 100. Not only plus, it can be minus also. So we don't have to worry here, because we are jumping in terms of relative positioning. Okay, we are jumping means we are setting ourselves into a new position relatively, which is perfectly fine in these cases. So we are going 100 elements. Elements means 4 bytes, 4 bytes, 4 bytes. If it is a structure pointer, size of the structure, if it is 20, then 20 into 100. If it is size of the structure is 20, right? So we are moving forward 100 elements. We are moving backward 100 elements, right? Okay, so I hope I gave some good perspective about pointers as a deep dive, as a very fundamental topic in this particular presentation. Okay. So the request is always to join in the Telegram group as well as subscribe to YouTube videos also, right? Okay, you can ask questions and I will be glad to answer them. I will cover more topic in other videos about pointers, right? Thank you very much. Thanks for watching the video. We have put important links in the description and the comment section below. If you really enjoyed our video, please press the like button below. We plan to release one video per week. So go ahead and subscribe to Sanfoundry by pressing the subscribe button below and turning on the notification bell.